I have no regrets or apologies or explanations to make for being elected to deputy president. Yes, I have no, because I didn't look for William Ruto. As a matter of fact, he was not my friend. He was brought to me by Uhuru Kenyatta. The chaos that was in KICC for those 4 days, you guys will never know what was going on there. You may want to know that the Miguna Miguna was strangling Uhuru Kenyatta physically. And I don't know where I got the strength to box that giant and until I put him down.
Why was he strangling?
I don't know.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Yes.
How is it that you were at the scene of crime, per se, where Msando was?
Never. I think Uliza Sudi. Sudi alisema the system that they use for SWIFT, for international payments, for processing, globally now, I designed it.
Wow, you're the brainchild for SWIFT?
International payment system.
Wow.
Yeah, not SWIFT, the one that now integrates the SWIFT with our
payment system.
With our payment system, and you know, seamless. I was shocked the other day to hear that from Singapore to Malaysia to Middle East, the inward payment system, the international payment system, is the one that I designed 24 years ago.
Do you get anything from?
No, you get satisfaction.
Just satisfaction.
You get satisfaction. Yeah, how many people have got systems that I use all over the world?
Exactly. Mheshimiwa, how are you?
Very well.
We are humble. Thank you so much for your time.
Karibu sana.
Namaste. Hapa tu.
As long as people keep on taking precautions, yeah, I hope you guys also keep being safe.
Yeah, sure. We are trying our level best, but again, we have to come where the story is.
Yeah.
We have no option. Awesome. So basically, Kenyans out here and probably many other people know you as this leader who's always tough talking on TV, makes some serious stands on national politics and national issues, but they've never really gotten to know where it all started for you. I would love you probably to take me down memory lane and let's pick it from where you were born and how life was growing up.
You know, I like to describe myself as villager 001. I'm villager number 1.
Why so?
Because I'm a villager and I love it. And I'm proud of it. I was born in a village in Gatundu, to peasant family, to peasant parents who are very hardworking and who valued education. And they did everything possible. My father passed away, but my mother is still there. And you think I'm tough until I'm summoned by my mother. And I mellow like a kitten.
She's the disciplinarian.
Yes. Yeah, she worked very hard. My parents were traders. My father had a chain of shops and businesses, mostly in Gatundu, Juja, and Nika. My mother was a trader in the fruit market here in Nairobi, Kawangware market. Wow. So I consider myself also my other second home is Kawangware. And
you stayed in Kawangware for some time?
Yes, I grew up really literally. When I'm not in school, I'm in Kawangware in that market. I know, people, when I go to the market today, a lot of people still recognize me. We are friends, they're my mother's friends.
You also used to help your mom in selling the fruit? Yes,
it was compulsory, my friend. She was not helping. It was duty. It was duty.
You're the eldest?
No. I come from a blessed family. I am right in the middle. Yeah. In a family of 9, I'm right in the middle.
Wow.
Somewhere there. We have many.
Where does your schooling start?
So my schooling starts in Gatundu. I went to a local primary school called Kitwe Primary. I just grew up like any other kid in the village. The only notable thing was I was quite ahead of my class. When I was in class 2, I remember I used to be called to help class 7 students in mathematics.
Come on.
Yes. Yes. I know that because that includes my own sister was years ahead of me. She still reminds me that I was that kid who failed to notice because I can't remember time I was number 2.
Wow.
In school. Never.
You're always leading.
From beginning to end, right? Like David Judicial. Yeah, then I went to, interestingly, I went to a local school. Went to a local school called Tuko High School. So then I went to Thika High School for my A-levels.
Thika High School?
Yes.
I'm an old boy of Thika High School.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You look like one. We used to call, we had a nickname. There was no boy from the students. We were calling ourselves Mama. That is, even today, that name persists in Thika High School. And which house were you in?
Gambia.
Gambia. I was in Zuria.
Yeah, well.
And I hope you will join our alumni because I have a project there where I want to renew all those houses. If you go to Thika High School today, there is a Nile. You remember Nile?
Yeah, I remember Nile next to Niger.
Yeah, my good friend Joel Kibe of Mobile has renovated Nile.
Wow.
So I have a program where I'm asking people to go and contribute to renovating our old dormitories. In very early years of secondary school, I was a school head, very early years, or class head actually. But actually, when I was in high school, in O levels especially, I had a nickname. There's a guy called Martin. I still remember Martin Kenyan. And he nicknamed me Waziri. So he said, one day you'll be a minister.
Wow.
Yeah. That was my nickname. Even some people in the village.
Waziri?
Yes.
What informed the nickname?
Well, I think they could see the leadership. Yeah, skills for me.
You are representing people.
Representing stuff like that.
You finished Thika High School?
So I finished Thika High School. Then I went to the University of Nairobi. Those days for you to be admitted for Bachelor of Commerce degree, my friend, you had to be very special. So we were only a class of 400. Yeah, in the whole country.
Which year was this?
This was in 1990. My time at the university was marked by not just the academics also, but politics.
And they were actually in the 90s, those were tense times.
So tense times. By that time, it was not normal to have people in student politics from the BCom class. But they had good campaigners like John Buddy.
Yeah. Buddy campaigned for you?
Yeah, Buddy campaigned for me.
Wow.
Yeah, Buddy campaigned for me.
How is it that then you're on different political fronts as of now?
This is politics.
It happens.
It happens.
Anyway.
I vied for treasurer. I hear nowadays as a man you can't be a treasurer. I don't know why. But I vied for treasurer and I won. And when I checked the records, I saw now the last treasurer for me to get a handover was when now Son was born in 1987. So who was a treasurer before me, the immediate, was one Miguna Miguna. So I had to, who was by that time in exile in Canada. So I didn't get a handover from Miguna.
Wow.
But I was the next one after Miguna Miguna. With a lot of votes from across all communities, across all campuses in the University of Nairobi. I remember that when we were sworn in, the guest of honor for our swearing in was the late Otino Kajwang and his brother TJ Kajwang.
When you were being sworn in as the treasurer?
Yes. I was sworn in. The one who gave me the Bible was TJ Kajwang in 1992. So
member
for Waraka. So 26 years later, he gave Baba the Bible. So I told the Baba, you are 26 years late. I was there.
You were sworn in earlier on.
Yes, by the same guy. So we were very also part of the national politics. That is a multi-party year. We had the biggest march ever. Sometimes when you go to the libraries of the newspapers, the entire Koinange Street, all the way to Parliament was full of humanity. It was the biggest demo ever seen. Forget about even the one for code and NASA and all that. It was the biggest demo that we did in 1992 against ethnic clashes in the Rift Valley and parts of Nyanza. And naturally, Mwai being Mwai, he closed the university. He closed the university. He suspended us. He sent us to a disciplinary committee. So at the disciplinary committee, now we are supposed to be expelled. That was the normal thing. Student leaders, when you get there, you'll be expelled. So if you are fortunate not to die, because that was the norm that time. You remember we had lost Tito Adugosi.
Yeah, Adugosi, the chair then.
The chair then. So it was terrible times. And they asked us not to come with those lawyers. That is not allowed. Actually, they changed the student constitution to say that you cannot come with lawyers before disciplinary committee. That's how bad they were doing. So we went to court. We got an injunction at 6 p.m. before Justice John Mwai. Utino Kajuan, the late, is one who was asked by Jaramogi to represent us. Yeah. Because the Attorney General was insisting that. So it was there on the other side. Emos Wako. Yeah, so it was Emos Wako versus Utino Kajuan for our case.
But again, given direction by Jaramogi.
Jaramogi was our go-to person. Yes. He really helped us. Jaramogi was a principled man. Was a principled. Was committed also to our cause.
Do you hold the same view about his son?
That's another story.
So the debate goes on and stuff?
Yeah, then we got an injunction. I mean, that's how we survived. We were not expelled.
So campus is gone?
Campus is gone. So now, that time we were confused. So what we did is that away from that confusion, some of us who are in student politics, who had just graduated from student leadership, now aligned ourselves with an emerging reform movement. So we formed the CNC, the Citizens for National Convention, which was led by William Ruto and Kifuda Kebwana, David Alamba. You know, we participated with the, when there were political prisoners for the forming of the RPP. I was one of the founders of RPP, these political prisoners, with the Angelica Peperi. Yeah. Wow. So because the mainstream political space was very, very confused, I think Moi had managed to really split the people. We then started the NCEC, the National Constitutional Executive Committee, led by Kifuda again, and that was in around the year 1994. And remember, we got our constitution in 2010. So that was a 16-year journey, and I'm very proud that I was part of that. But at the same time, part of my colleagues, people like Kabando, the late Taiwa Nkuraru, Wafula Buke, they choose to stick to the 100% political career. So I went through some trial and error in 1994. Typical of when you leave campus, you go for this job for a month, another one. I remember I went to an audit company, which was a leading African audit company called Gedongo & Company. It was owned by the father of John Gedongo, the former PS, who was also a family friend. I went to Total a bit, in accounting. All this time I had a friend who was actually my mentor, who taught me a lot of things that I know today in the financial business world.
Who's this?
This is Jim Nambari.
Wow.
Yeah, he still remains my mentor. And he inspires me. So
he's a mogul in the business industry.
Yeah, he's a mogul in the business industry. I have a thing with writing. I am a prolific writer.
Wow.
That's also my hobby. So that time, there was a guy called Pius Nyamora. Pius Nyamora used to have a very independent magazine, political magazine, called Society. It was very pro-opposition that time, very pro-Jaramogi. So even when I was in my second and third years at the university, I was a business writer for Society magazine. It was a purely political magazine. So I went to Pius, I told him, Pius, I want to create a business section with Lois Nyamora, the wife, who was also the editor also. And they gave me the opportunity to come start. So I could write the entire business every week for Society magazine. For my good friend Peter Warutere, he had a financial review or economic review, I can't remember which one. I was inspired by also by weekly review of Hilary Mwani. Those are our go-to. That's how we got our business. When Opanga used to write and we could read with tears his articles with his pompous English of writing about brouhaha and brouhaha in that weekly, the Hillary magazine. And so because of that, when I was working with Jimna, I also became a speechwriter.
Wow.
Yeah. So when he was still the chairman he was a long-serving chairman of NSC, almost every major speech we had to sit with Jimna and I had to write first, second, third, fourth draft. People say that Raila paid for my school fees, for my university fees. No, it's actually Jimna who paid for some of my part of my university fees.
Not Raila.
Not Raila, just to give credit.
Okay.
And I don't think Raila had more money than me, but that's it was a hustle.
But he was the son of a vice president.
Yeah, but Moi had really, we were on our knees, everyone was on our knees. I remember we used to meet at a pharmacy around, near at the Hilton. There was a pharmacy called Kilimanjaro Pharmacy. So when Raila and Orengo and those people come from parliament, and as we are waiting for them, that's where we can have the political debate of the day. That pharmacy was owned by Wangari Maathai's close confidant called John Makaka. Yeah. So people are going through difficult times. I remember my good friend Otilo Kajua. There's one time when I was now later I would go for the banking career. Of course I didn't have a car. Yeah? So I was staying in Pama. And Nani's car had been auctioned. Otilo Kajua. The rich. And we were good friends. So we used to around Mufangano. Is it Mufangano?
Mufangano Street.
Where you take the potatoes to Pama.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would meet with Otilo Kajua, and because of course we were bachelors, I think. So we have to take some fish and chips and then get to potato. Yeah. So then I settled in banking. So 1995, I went to work for Standard Chartered Bank. I went to the bank. I joined the bank when they were transforming. They had a transformation project. A lot of change was happening. There was lots of consultants, and I went deep into the project, working under a team of consultants from the UK. And we worked together with the guys from the UK very well. We transformed the bank to what it is today. If you go to Standard Bank, my graffiti is all.
Wow.
Yeah. I designed because I found myself in technology. And not because I was a guy for coding and I was not a nerd. I was actually that guy who understands technology and understands business. So I was sort of, I used to say business people speak Greek and technology people speak German, and I could speak both.
Wow.
So I was able to.
You were the bridge.
I was a bridge, and so therefore I would sit with business people, understand their problem, come up with solutions, design solutions, communicate the same with the guys from technology. The system that they use for SWIFT, for international payments, for processing, globally now, I designed it.
Wow, you're the
today,
brainchild for SWIFT.
International payment system.
Wow.
Yeah, not SWIFT, the one that now integrates the SWIFT with our
payment system.
With our payment system, and seamless. Part of my achievements, which we did with a lady who was a very genius of a programmer called Beryl. Beryl Atieno. So I could tell Beryl this is what they use as well, and we designed it very well. Now it was adopted to. I was shocked the other day to hear that from Singapore to Malaysia to Middle East, the inward payment system, the international payment system, is the one that I designed 24 years ago.
Do you get anything from?
No, you get satisfaction.
Just satisfaction.
You get satisfaction. Yeah, how many people have got systems that I use all over the world?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that time, government payroll, that's a very interesting area. Government payroll was being generated by mainframe machines at a place called Healthy House, where we have got something called GTS, Government Technology Services, Healthy House. So the mainframe machine that was generating this, it's a huge, a mammoth machine, and the output of the record was printed out. So the data was carried in some tapes, some tapes. Become my foot here, reel to reel tapes. And I was given a challenge by the bank They told me you have automated almost everything. How can we continue getting this printout? Then some people will come and say, "Hey, Kevin, At that time, it is teachers, including teachers. And you know what happened is our branch managers sometimes were stoned by teachers.
Wow.
Mwalimu ameenda kuchukua mshahara pale Kugoma. He has come with a bicycle. Na bicycle iko na kibuyu ya paraffin. So this is one big day when he has to go draw his salary from the bank, get paraffin, and it was a very important day. And then they find that salary has not been posted. So it was a big crisis. Everything was manual. So my boss at the time, head of operations called Ian Norman, he challenged me. He was a Scottish guy. He told me, you have automated almost everything. The machine was not. So, but there was no machine that could read this. So I did some research. I talked to reading companies at that time, a company known as NCR, another one known as ICL, the international companies. So finally, I managed to get a machine from NCR. So it took 6 months to ship it from America. And these machines came. I worked with a guy called Nazim Baji, and he was a very good programmer. Wow. We understood each other very well. Within 3 months, we had a technology, a program that we were able to extract data from this machine and convert it into some format called ASCII. And then ASCII, that now could get into normal pieces. That's how we were able to. So that time, the government did not have PCs. It was mainframe machines. I was very proud. So around 1999, towards the end of 1999, my boss that time, a gentleman known as Chris William, he had come from Saudi, a big bank in Saudi, worked with us for 3 years.
This is in Stanchart.
So then I think he fell out with his boss, the MD, by the name of Tony Koroko. So he found another job in Saudi. When he went there, he was told to automate a bank, the biggest Islamic bank in the world, 500 branches. This is Mammoth Bank called Al-Ajhi Bank. So when we went there, he goes to those. Where do I start? So he remembered he had his KYMs and Diamogos in Kenya. So he came for me and a gentleman called Philip. Me, I refused totally. He was offering me crazy money, salary. I refused. How can I go to a country?
How much was this?
I think my first salary was somewhere in the region of $8,000. That is equivalent of 800,000. And who would say no to that money? But you know the house tricks that Saudi Arabia, so I refused. So I said, no, I cannot go there. He used all the tricks. I refused. No. Then he said, no, I'm coming to talk to you. He came to talk to us. I still refused, and then he knew, and because all the time I was working with him, he knew I was a Chelsea fan. So he knew I loved football. So he would bring me from London Chelsea shirts. So he told me, do you know what? You are coming, I want you to come on this day. Do you know who's coming to play in Riyadh, in Saudi? Brazil football team. That's the time of Ronaldinho. I said, enough, I'm coming.
And that was it.
So I said, I'm coming for 1 year. So it's football actually which broke the camel's back.
So you go to Saudi?
I go to Saudi, but very strict.
Okay, before then, why did you fear, or why did you not want to go there?
No, Saudi is very strict.
Very strict.
Very strict Islamic rules. We have 2 sets of constitutions, the normal one and the Islamic one, and that applies for everyone, whether you are Muslim or not. Of course, a lot of other things are exaggerated, as I'll tell you one day. But it's not. You have to be tough to whatever. So I went in there.
Do you first of all enjoy the football match?
Oh yes, I had to deliver on that. And it was a friendly game. It was a friendly game between the Saudis and the Brazilian football team. So instead of 1 year, I ended up staying close to 10 years
in Saudi.
Even my boss came, left me there. Yeah. Of course, I had one major advantage. I am from conventional English banking, and I could speak Arabic, and I could understand Islamic law, Sharia banking. So that was a very unique combination, which helped me to maneuver through things.
So as at now, you're very proficient in Arabic.
Yes. Of course, I don't get to speak Arabic a lot. I have to look for someone to speak Arabic with. I don't see my good friend Balala. Najib Balala is the one I used to practice with. And I used to teach Ali Hassan Joe, Samara. He's good, but I was better. So
clearly from 10 years in Saudi.
Yeah. And also the fact that I was and my job was an analyst. I have to speak to. It's not sitting down and working for my desk. It was a people. I had to speak to people. Yeah, I had to speak to people. So then 2007, I decided to come back because of the campaign. Yeah.
Wow. In these 10 years in Saudi, is there anything itching you like you need to go back home and represent?
That time I was feeling, I wish I was home. Then of course the referendum of 2005. Again I was in the banana secretariat. And because I had friends because of my student days. So even if I was all the way in Saudi Arabia, I was still like a part of here. I'm sending emails, I'm doing strategy, I'm doing all these things. Because I had friends all over, and the Kibaka bandos and other people, Kiraitos. And so I was really part of here, even if I was not here. And that long distance relationship, of course, sometimes it doesn't work all the time. So by 2007, I was decided, no. Actually, I met Raila in Dubai and we chatted at the Fairmont, and he told me, why don't you come home and help me? Tutoe hawa watu. Wameharibu nchi. That is why you're working in other people's countries. I knew Raila, of course.
Yeah.
In 1997, I worked for Raila. I did some consultancy for him when he was vying for the first time for president. He gave me a gentleman called Richard Maina from Thika. They worked to give him an opinion whether Mount Kenya region would vote for him. So we went very dispassionately, and we talked, we did a research, we gave him. I remember it was my first document to do in PowerPoint, 1997, and I gave him a report which says Mount Kenya will not vote for you. Other people will not pay. Ukimwambia things that they don't want to hear. But Raila paid on the spot. In fact, he read the report, we took it through. He was just consuming it. And then he told his PA, or the guy who is helping him, patia vijana pesa yao. There and then. Do you know how much it was?
How much was it?
30,000 shillings. That was very convenient today.
That was a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
I'm interested in one thing. What did you find out? What was the reason why people will not vote for him?
I think there was a lot of, whatever happened between Jaramogi and Kenyatta, Jomo, you might think it's just a passing something, but I think it was very unfortunate. It planted a seed that we need to work hard for a long time.
Fast forward to 2007 now.
Fast forward to 2007.
Yeah, you want to come back home.
Yeah, I want to come back home. We just decided. I just saw what's happening. I decided to come and help Kibaki. That's all. And I came straight to his secretariat. I formed a group of professionals called Professions for Our Work in Kenya. Because for me, that was the main thing. Kenya was working. Things were working again. Systems were working again. Yeah? So I formed Professions for Our Work in Kenya, which now was now integrated into the mainstream. And I ended up becoming the spokesman of PNU. Yeah. Don't ask me who appointed me.
I remember it was very controversial. There's a time you had a problem and you resigned.
Yeah. I appointed myself, that's all.
How?
Because there was no one. There was none other. So there was a gap. This is right. Ukipata a gap, usigoje invitation in politics.
Beba twende.
Yeah. So I saw a gap and went for it. Yes. So, of course, in 2007, very unfortunate year. Very, very unfortunate year.
Especially
I could see it coming. Initially, when I was going around with professionals, I went all over the country. I went to the Rift Valley. I saw what was coming in Rift Valley. I could see it. I could see what's coming. Sitting in a place called Mago in Vihiga. And I had a frank chat with people in that place called Mago. And, the propaganda that was there. Oh, nyinyi wa Kikuyu, nasikia Kibaki amewapea card, ukiweka kwa ATM ya Equity, inatoa pesa ya bure. You know, lots of propaganda, you know, propaganda is dangerous. It's dangerous because it can cause a lot of, it can cause bloodshed.
Of course.
And I think 207 was a product of propaganda. You know, the poison had been planted. You know, the 41 against 1 was so real. Yeah? I wouldn't want to see Kenya go back there. I wouldn't want to.
What do you make of the results of the election then?
There were, you know, Kregler came and I worked with Kregler. I was actually, Kregler one time drew me out of KICC. I was in the front page of the nation being, you know, thrown out. I agree with Kregler. There were problems from all sides. It was just a chaotic election. I don't think it was about rigging, someone rigging. If you look at a place like Karachuonyo had 110% voting for Raila of the registered voters.
How is that possible?
How is it possible? Exactly my point.
Possible?
So you can't see this side and that side. We just had bad electoral system. Yeah.
Is it a case of one outwitting the other?
No.
To win the election?
No, it was just a messy elections all over. Here in Nairobi, I remember a returning officer called, I think Margaret or something, who was completely pro-ODM that particular time. Here in Nairobi, in Starehe, the one that Wanjiru defeated Kamana. Yeah? So it was all over. You can't say it was Kibaki side or this other side.
But the end justified the
Kibaki just lost in one. There's one area he lost heavily in that election. Propaganda. Yeah. Raila's team, Lola, that's actually how I started my political career as a, you know, because I am the only one now who I tried to couple together something to fight back the propaganda. Yeah, and we did not remember I had just come from out there. So I put in a team very quickly.
Do you remember Kivuitu? There was a time he was cornered and asked who really won the election and he was like, I don't know.
He wouldn't have known because he ran a shambolic process. How would he have known? So when they on the night of 27th of December, no sleep. 28th, no sleep. Day and night, 29, until that year, now when we had to go to swear in Kibaki. Even swearing in of Kibaki from KICC, it was completely hostile. A totally hostile place. Oh my God. The chaos that was in KICC for those 4 days, you guys will never know what was going on there. You may want to know that the Miguna Miguna was strangling Uhuru Kenyatta physically. And I don't know where I got the strength to box that giant and until it put him down.
Why was he strangling?
I don't know. The chaos that was there to save Uhuru there at the cases. And that time nobody would. People are afraid. I was a guy on the ground, and I had only two guys I could reach on phone, Uhuru Kenyatta and Moses Kuria. So I was a field marshal on that ground at the KICC.
In what capacity was Miguna there?
Miguna was now the agent for Raila. And I'm leading the agents for Kibaki. And Uhuru is not a minister. He's a kind of guy who has just joined to support Kibaki. Kimunya was a minister. Those are and the late George too. Those are the only people who were with me at KICC. You talk about Martha Karua and the rest. Mother was in Kishu fighting for her life, her political life. So people are out there. And remember, people from the ODM zones did have a lot of competition on the ground. So there is a way that their blocks were voting. So all their sharpshooters, Orengo, William Ruto, Joe Nyaga, Barala, they are there with me. We were outnumbered, and Tuju was with me. Tuju was a minister. Of course, he has lost in Radiator. And, you know, people from that region are in that hall, poking him with a stick there. So it was a very bad time. Now, when decision was taken, now we have to go for the swearing in. If you are stranded at KICC, it was not even good for your life. So I remember I left KICC to State House. In the back of the boot, Yagari, Prado, Martha Karua. There was no single space. I had to sleep on the boot of Martha Karua's Prado. Yeah, and we went to State House. Results came. results came, and that time Kalonzo has joined us. So I remember even Kivutu to access State House from KICC was a problem. We had to go and arrange security for him, myself, and Honorable Manzo.
Dan
Manzo. Manzo then before Chibozi, for Magwen, and a gentleman by the name of Fred Mutete, and now escort Kivutu to State House.
In the evening.
In the evening.
At night. They call it, they say it at night.
Yes. As my mama would say, I was there. So then, of course, after that is the post-election violence. My friend, it was very terrible. I didn't know when being allied to Deputy President became leprosy. Yeah, it's not leprosy. And I'm allied to Deputy President because he is my Deputy Party leader and I belong to Jubilee. People talk as if he's from another party or from the moon. I have no regrets or apologies or explanations to make for being allied to Deputy President. Yes, I have no, because I didn't look for William Ruto. As a matter of fact, he was not my friend. He was brought to me by Uhuru Kenyatta.
Let's settle this once and for all.
Yes.
How is it that you were at the scene of crime, per se, where Msando was?
Never. I think Uliza Sudi. Sudi alisema never.